Welcome to What's Brewing with IAT Insurance Group, where episode after episode we cover the latest marketplace trends with subject matter experts who are fueling our mission to provide insurance answers together. Grab your cup and let's settle in.
Hi, I'm Nicole K, and welcome back to What's Brewing. I'm the AVP of Marketing and Analytics for Commercial Transportation here at IAT. I'm really excited to welcome two of my colleagues for their What's Brewing debut, Dewayne Reeder and Mark Hansen. Dewayne is a loss control specialist at IAT, and Mark is one of our claims analysts. Both have a rich expertise in today's topic, how front and side view cameras can protect truck drivers in the event of lane-changing incidents and side swipe collision. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, Dewayne, we are using one of the blogs that you just recently authored, Get the Truth on Tape, as our inspiration for today's podcast.
Yeah, that's a really hot issue with trucking, as being able to defend yourself, and that's phraseology I use a lot. Is help us defend you in the event of a claim, and the truth is so important, and that's the best way to capture it just with a video.
It feels like truth is in decline. Every time there's an accident, there's always two sides to every story. Even with the data that we obtain, there's still bias. So how do we actually get to the truth?
Well, I believe this is such an important and honestly overlooked topic regarding how we actually discover what happened in an accident. In my opinion, we can no longer really simply rely on verbal statements to accurately assess what happened. But yeah, as you mentioned, there really appears to be a growing lack of honesty these days as compared to when I started 20 years ago. And to me, I think the good news is that the technology for dash cameras and telematics has become so much more advanced since then. It's relatively inexpensive to get these in place and well worth the investment for our insureds. Honestly, could save over a span of many insureds millions. And I certainly would encourage all our agents to suggest this option to our insureds and definitely explain the benefits, because initially you don't really feel that when you're getting a policy, but we are putting $1 million at least on these policies. And, that just does become kind of a truth detector to have these cameras in place. They're very important.
How would you say that telematics and dash cams and even side cameras complement each other?
Well, I mean, the more proof we have, the more we can accumulate, the better the outcome's going to be. Being able to see what happened in conjunction with real data is priceless to a claim. And the way I phrase it to our insureds is, we're trying to protect you here, whether or not you're at fault. We can limit the damages the more information we can accumulate.
I would add to that also that the cameras and the telematics are not just reactive after the event, but they can be used so proactive before the event, because you get a snapshot into the life and the behavior of the drivers, both good and bad, because your telematics will capture the events where your driver responded well, and that just proves that, hey, he's a good driver. And other times it's events that will show, well, this driver needs some help, because the telematics will give you the event, such as a hard brake, a hard corner, or something that happened in the truck. And then when you pull up the corresponding video, you get to see exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are very good points. And so, kind of on the flip side, so for those who see cameras as too expensive, kind of what's your counter argument for that?
Well, I have a couple, since I deal directly with a lot of clients before the fact and trying to implement this as a program, there's lots of arguments for that. It's obviously it's the hindsight cost of what you save in a defendable accident, those that you don't get charged with. But also there's other alternatives. The higher end cameras, they integrate with your telematics, such as through Samsara or one of the other major suppliers. And those are a little more expensive. But one client, he basically just went down to Best Buy. I don't know if I can say Best Buy. Let's go with one client just went down to a local retailer and bought 3 over-the-counter cameras and installed one forward and one down each side. And his initial investment was $150, and it saved him a deductible of $1,000 when he had a crash a few months later.
So kind of along with that, how do these tools change the game in proving liability, kind of to that point of the example that you just gave?
If we can see what happened, even if it's something that happened behind us and we don't have any back, rear facing cameras all the way to the back, we can still glean information from that. And it seems to me every time we have cameras involved, we save a lot of money and a lot of headaches, and the claim becomes just that much more efficient.
Dewayne, can you share some of the most common scenarios where crashes occur and blame gets complicated?
It's really kind of like Mark just mentioned, that if we don't have a clear shot out the front of the vehicle and something's out in the front, that gets a little complicated because you can't see down the sides. But say in a lane change situation where you have a clear view that our truck did not depart the lane because the claimant vehicle, which is typically 80% of the crashes are caused by the smaller vehicle, they will swear up and down that our truck came over, was in their lane, and encroached upon them, but yet our truck stays within the lanes. So that's one thing. And the other is, say on a turn accident where they're saying, oh, your driver was way out of his lane or whatever. It gives you a clear perspective of the turn that driver was executing. So it does give you some defensibility, but again, the front and side cameras are really good. And the one thing I think is also that the driver facing cameras. Now that gets a little more sticky because so many drivers do not want those. But if the allegation's made that your driver was distracted talking on his phone or whatever, you have clear evidence that no, my driver was focused. He was doing what he was supposed to do.
So, Mark, can you share some examples of when cameras made all the difference in a claim?
I could cite many examples. The one that comes to mind is one that occurred in California, in which we actually did have the rare instance of having side view cameras. Private passenger vehicle, I think it was a Lexus, just came over into our vehicle. We had the dash cam, he got it right over to us. It was clear to see. This person went directly to an attorney, and the attorney really, sent out the letter of representation and other threatening letters to get our attention. But when we felt it was right to release the dash camera video to him, the attorney dropped the claimant. And in that case, the claimant went back and got another attorney, and the same thing happened. I think there were at least 3 attorneys this person tried to get, and all the attorneys dropped them, and this eventually just went away. Where I don't think that would have happened. I think that would have cost us thousands upon thousands of dollars, but we were able to deny it. Another example would be, there was one example where we had a vehicle pulled over on the side of the road. It was on the New Jersey Turnpike, and they were hit from behind, hit our trailer with a heavily armored military vehicle, which caused our whole unit to move forward 20 feet. There was no question about who was at fault in that case, but it became important to have the dash camera video to demonstrate that our insured was pulled over for a flat tire and not for what we saw in the estimate was a serious stripping of the transmission, which is a rare occurrence when you have damages to one of our insured's vehicles. But we were able to show the appraiser and the body shop that this actually did occur as a result of getting hit from behind very hard, and it was able to move the claim along for our insured into the total loss category, which this guy really needed to get back to work. So it saved, I'm sure, weeks of back and forth, which is, I'm sure, what would have happened.
Yeah, I could just listen to you all day with the examples that you could provide. And I think it's just the simple things that you just don't think about on a daily basis as to what a camera can actually capture, not only for yourself, as to what's going on with, with everyone else around. Because there's some crazy drivers out there these days.
Hmm.
Mark, when we were planning this episode, you mentioned something that was an interesting term to me. So, what is a swoop and squat?
Swoop and squat is a common type of staged automobile accident in which, to defraud insurance companies and fabricating collisions and filing false claims, mainly for the bodily injury aspect of it. And what it amounts to is there are 2 vehicles, usually at least 2 vehicles, one of them changes lanes in front of our insured, and then another one changes lanes in front of our insured between those two. And the very lead vehicle that's involved in this puts the brakes on, which causes the vehicle right directly in front of us to slam on their brakes as they pretend to need to slam on their brakes, and we rear end them. And of course, outpours 4 or 5 people from these vehicles, all claiming injury. And I've captured some of these on a couple of dash cameras, in which we were able to not quite deny it because the dash cam wasn't of a high definition quality enough to see what their tag numbers were and find out who these people were that were involved. They just kind of drove away after we rear-ended the individual, but we were able to, I think it was Allstate, let them know, look, we're only paying for half of this claim, at least for as regard to the damages that I was involved in, because we were able to provide this dash camera video that appeared very staged.
And to tag on the heels of what Mark was saying about the squat and stoop, we did have a previous blog about stage accidents, and in doing so, we were trying to not just reach our agents to educate our insureds, but also hopeful that that would come across to the public, because the public should know, and the public should really be outraged at these types of fraudulent things, because that just drives up the cost of not just trucking insurance, but all insurance across the board.
Dewayne, some drivers have expressed hesitation in having front and rear side view cameras in the past. Why do you think that is?
It was kind of like, drivers are very real people, and they don't always like to be shown when they make a mistake. But it all depends on how the company manages the data you collect. Good companies will take that and use that, as we said earlier, as a coaching opportunity. And it's also a great chance to reward and recognize drivers when they do well. But at the same time, you have to correct errors, and the best way to do that is to see what happened and coach the drivers through that. So that's the hesitation. But so many, after I've had companies state that once they have the cameras in, drivers will come in and say, that camera saved my job because it proved that I wasn't at fault. And one owner of a relatively large fleet, he came in the discussion after he installed the cameras. He said, I had to go back and apologize to my drivers because so many times I would come in and say, what'd you do now? How'd you mess up? And once I began to see all of the good driving behavior they had, I went and told him I'm sorry. Now, he was an exceptional owner because he was so connected with his drivers, because he came up through the ranks and was a driver. So he gets it.
Do either of you think we'll see a day where insurance companies start requiring dash cams?
Requiring? Well, it's a dream of mine to have somehow a way of them becoming influenced enough to change over to this. It's a relatively low expense with just high reward. And to be able to kind of, for an agent to figure out a way to get that across to an insured, it's like beating a dead horse. It would just save so much money and time and countless other issues that could arise as a result of just, quite frankly, us being semi-blind without them, as we can't simply rely on these statements like we used to in so many cases unless it's just a clear situation. But a lot of these accidents are lane change issues, and I would hope that I'm not sure how things really work over on the agency side, but it would be nice if they could offer a discount or some kind of incentive to the drivers to get them on board with putting these cameras in there and keeping them going, because in my mind they are priceless.
Wow, that's kind of a sticky widget to offer a discount if you have the cameras, because the answer that's typically given is more of the fact that, well, they will reduce your insurance cost over the long run because of the experience rating of the commercial vehicles. But the other aspect is there have been rumblings about requiring cameras from a compliance standpoint from the Motor Carrier Safety Administration, of saying it would benefit the industry so well that we should have these. And most of your newer vehicles, they come automatically equipped with cameras. So it's just a matter of hooking them up. So I think we will get to that point, as Mark was saying. It'll be great when we do, because it will really reduce the number of fraudulent and exaggerated claims that we have to deal with, because that's a huge part of the total claims cost for the industry.
Yeah, and I think these truckers, when I talk to them, many of them already are telling me, right, as a claim has happened, that they feel like, they always say something along the lines, how they target the truckers because we have such high, and that is something an agent probably could kind of bring back to the surface of an insured when they're working this out, just to kind of at least motivate them, not instead of waiting for an accident to arrive and learning their lesson that way, the hard way, but just kind of giving them examples of like, this is what you can avoid, because people do target the truckers.
Those are really great points that both of you make. So, given the increase in litigation and its impact on the insurance marketplace, if you had one message for our listeners, would it be?
I think I'd refer back to the example I used before about the driver who went down and just went down to the local retailer and bought 3 over-the-counter cameras. He said straight off the bat, he said, it's just common sense.
Yeah, these days I just think that it should, become as common as having a smartphone with you. A lot of these vehicles used to have and still have these phone numbers on the back of their vehicles, like saying, how's my driving? Well, now you even as an employer, as our insured, will know how the driving is.
So this has been a great conversation, and thank you both for joining me today. And just as a reference, we do have our loss control website where we do have some vendor discounts. So that's always a good resource for anyone listening, our insureds and our agents. And so with that, thank you for listening to What's Brewing, and we'll see you again next time.
Providing insurance answers together is what we do best. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of What's Brewing. Until next time.